All right, thank you everyone. We're just waiting for a few people to check in. We'll probably get started in maybe 30 seconds or so. Mark will kick things off, Mark and Eric. So we also are live on Facebook right now. So for those who are tuning in that way, hello, welcome.
Good afternoon to almost everybody, right? Except for those in Hawaii.
That's right.
All right. 30 seconds or so here.
Yeah.
All right. I guess I'll get started here. Part of the motivation for this webinar is we've been receiving a lot of questions lately about how to help companies optimize the work from home experience that many of us have become used to at this point in time. But from a management point of view and from an employee point of view, there's still a lot of transition moving forward. The news and everybody from businesses are saying that work from home is going to be a permanent part of our future. It's helped out in a lot of different ways as well. And news reports are saying that a lot of companies are just, thinking it's going to just be forever moving forward. So this webinar is focused on that and how to take advantage of that and make the most of it. We're doing it to educate businesses because we've seen, the positives that we can do with working from home. And we're here to help out and help prepare your company or your business to make the most of it. So there'll be lots of statistics and stuff to prepare you for this work from home experience. And so my name's Mark Winger, and the previous slide was Eric Monroe. And we've also got Michael DePalma, who's going to be leading this webinar. He's the Senior Channel Development Manager at Datto, who is one of our largest vendors and really a huge, huge help all the way around for us. So, Michael, you want to go ahead and take it away?
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. So thank you. So, like Mark said, my name is Mike DePalma, Senior Channel Development Manager at Datto. My job normally takes me on the road about 3 to 4 days every week. So we have now been, we're based in Connecticut, so we've been in pretty hard quarantine since the middle of March. But, in conversations I had with Mark, when we were talking about putting together a webinar, because I've essentially been working remote for the last 4 years, and now I'm managing a team who normally, we call them the core team, normally that are in the office. There's some tricks to it. It's different than managing a workforce within your office. And so, we put together a deck of, what we thought maybe small businesses or even employees would find beneficial, because like Mark said, we don't know how long we're going to be in this or what this is going to look like in a hybrid scenario, those type of things. So one of the couple of things we're going to cover today, we're going to cover just engaging employees, both at the management level and just employee to employee, which is critical. Building and maintaining a strong culture. I know a lot of businesses in all shapes and sizes like to take a lot of pride in the culture. That's difficult to do when you're not seeing people face to face and those type of things. So that is important. Managing from home. Managing, if you're a sales manager, how are you managing that sales staff? If you're on the technology side, if you're really whatever kind of team that you're managing, it's different. It's a different mindset trying to motivate your team. And then just, best practices overall. As we move to this workforce that's all remote, and that's great, and we're going to cover a lot of things on the management side of things. Security and data, security and all that is still top of mind and very important. So one of the things you as a manager have to really make sure that you continue to hit home on is we got to be even more vigilant now than we were back in the office, because these criminals are starting to trying to do different things. Ultimately, sharing your experiences with your own customers. Like we're doing right here, share your experiences, because there is no silver bullet to any of this. So hopefully there's a couple things here that you're able to take back and put into your, management style. And I'd love to hear ideas from you guys as well of ways that you've done, ways that you've expanded. So when we look at the phases of the response of where we have been since mid-March when this thing really started taking off. First phase was crisis emerged, happened very quickly. We were all thrown into this with a couple weeks notice of, all right, now your life has changed. You're going to go work remotely. And, you know, you only go out to the grocery store and the gas station, right? That's all we had. So that was phase one. Phase two was just employee safety. That's where we said, okay, let's make sure all our employees are safe and sound, and making sure that maybe they have their PPE equipment and all these different types of things. And then it got to the business side of things. All right, now we're going to work from home. We don't know how long it's going to be, but we got to figure out how to do this and stay productive and keep our business running. And so that there was a lot of, you know, ins and outs to that. I know Mark and Eric, they were able to assist a lot of their clients in that transition. Working with a managed service provider clearly makes that transition a lot easier, trying to take away the IT and the security side as much as possible. And then now we're probably sitting somewhere, depending on where you're located, somewhere between phase 4 and phase 5. We're starting to get some clarity to some extent of what things are going to look like. And then as different states open up, I know, you know, most of the folks here in California, so you guys are kind of going some other challenges, but eventually there will be some form of returning to work. And we don't know what that new normal will be. We just know that you've got to be agile. It's kind of the work from anywhere mentality. You might be back in the office 6 months from now. You might be working from your kitchen. There might be small little satellite offices that are set up. And so when you look at your technology side, yeah, you've got to be agile, but also in your management style. It's really important that whatever you're doing now can be replicated to whatever that new normal looks like. And it starts with engaging your team. What does that look like? Right? We've seen the Zoom meetings, happy hours. I thought these were the cheesiest things when we started. I really did. And now we do one every single Thursday night, 5 o'clock. We have people from Australia. My team is about 12 people worldwide, the travelers, and we've got an Australian and 2 Australians, and we've got 2 Brits on the call. And you'll be surprised. I mean, these are people, even my boss, you know, I've got a great relationship with him, but we only talked when we needed to. The camaraderie now, I've talked to my team now way more than I did back when we were in the office, which is interesting, but it really has brought us together. I mean, there's text threads going on with people on the team that I really hadn't really dealt with. And it really has bonded us together and really put us in a good spot with the VP of Business Development. So it is really cool. And it sounds cheesy. I'm not going to sit here in a Zoom meeting. You make it fun. Our boss makes it so it's, we do a true and false about each other. And so you've got to make up 12 things. Some of them are true, some are false. And we vote on it and gives out a $50 Uber Eats card to whoever wins. But something fun like that, it does go a long way. There's another instance where within the channel, the kind of industry that we work in, a lot of vendors get together on Thursday night at 7:30 and play poker together. And now we're engaging that way. We do it. We have a Zoom set up. We're on PokerStars, and we engage that way. And so those things are they really are helpful. And again, in kind of keeping that culture going. And when you're talking about, you know, ways to communicate with your employees, you know, let's just try to make sure that wherever they're working, it's as normal as possible, right? If you normally had Monday morning status meetings, keep your Monday morning status meetings. If you normally had Friday afternoon happy hours, keep your Friday afternoon happy hours. Those type of things so that you get back into that routine. And I've found, me personally, and I think a lot of the members of my team would agree, that now that we're into this groove, when I think about my week, I think about the things I have to do in a webinar here and this, I also think of, all right, when I have that team meeting, that's still that standing team meeting, when we have lunch together, we have lunch like this together. You know, so it is important to keep that going. Using the video is critical. We see so many people on these Zoom meetings keep up, you know, just their, you know, maybe their headshot. Using video goes such a long way. And we're seeing that in these presentations and a lot of the webinars that we do, they're just way more engaging. And what's also interesting about the video, and I just found this out, they did some studies and they found that, I know a lot of people want to put a virtual background behind them that looks, you know, not the silly ones, you know, Tiger King ones. I mean, like the ones that might have your company logo and that. People have found that attendees are less apt to pay attention or be engaged in that webinar because it doesn't seem real. It seems more real to sit in a home office or anywhere, even if it's your kitchen. It seems more real and more, you know, and so even when you're having meetings with your clients, to keep that in mind as well, because that's where multiple studies have shown. And you also got to obviously be a little bit more flexible. Everybody in your organization is dealing with something different. I've got a 6 and an 8-year-old. Sometimes they're very good and they do their work. Sometimes they do not. And so when we were doing the homeschooling portion of it, it was difficult. Now we're trying to get them into camps. Those are all closed down. So folks there have some, issues, but everybody does. Don't think that only the people on your team that have kids are having a tough time with this new normal of not being able to leave. Everybody's got something else going around. So you've got to really, figure out what that is and be flexible. And so that leads, go ahead.
One other item, Michael, that I've found has been successful, and I just figured it out recently, is a basic good morning message to everybody you're working with. Just a quick one over Microsoft Teams or Google Meet or whichever platform you use. Just a basic good morning and standard, polite, way you would do it like you were entering the office when you were seeing somebody for the first time that day.
And I think that's perfect. I think it goes a long way, and it's simple. But I'm sure your employees think about that, and it's something that they look forward to. When we talk about that culture and trying to keep it going, there are just recommendations on working from home. I've been doing it for a long time in terms of working out of hotel rooms, that I've kind of gotten used to it. But some of the things I always say is, I hear people brag about the fact, I haven't been out of my sweatpants in 2 weeks. Yeah, you're not going to be as productive. I get up every morning, even when I'm on the road, I'll get up at the same time, take a shower, put some pomade in my hair, try to look sharp. And I go and I sit down and I'm at my desk the same way as I was, in a rail office. And so I believe in making sure you're keeping that same kind of, mentality and all of the rest, sitting up in it, wherever that desk may be, making sure you're doing that. And certain things you maybe want to lay down or whatever, but anything really, especially when it's partner facing or when it's client facing, that's so critical to do and keep those best practices going. You might not have the ability to set up a home office completely, but find a place in your office that would work for you. Mark and Eric, what do you guys have in terms of that? Do you have any kind of policy in terms of where folks work from, or even have conversations about that?
We don't have a specific policy, but we do have kind of a certain expectation that they will have a workspace. And California human resources laws enforce this, that they have to have a workspace that is conducive to what they're doing.
And
so
safe.
In this case, we had everybody take a picture of their workspace, send it to us at the beginning of this whole process, and we just looked at it and made sure that it was ergonomically correct and ready to go.
And we also made sure that everyone had the right equipment. So if they needed to take a phone, if they needed to take a headset, they needed to take their computer or monitors, it was available to them so they could do their work.
And that's great. I think it ties into, when we're talking about managing a team and starting to understand, the different dynamics that all of your team is going through. You might not know. They might not want to admit that they don't have the tools, right? They might be a little embarrassed, like, I don't have the tools that I need. So go proactively, put a checklist together. Do you have all these things? It sounds like California has more requirements about that, but that's great to make sure. All right, do you have everything you need? We'll make sure. For me, I need a second screen because I do so many webinars. Yeah, we'll get you a second screen, those type of things. Again, it's all about that communication. And when you go into the actual management style, and again, there's a lot of things that are going to be different. But again, like I mentioned, everybody's different with dealing with different situations. And you go through this mindset of, it must be terrible for Mike. He's got those 2 young kids and all of that. I feel so bad for him. But I don't feel bad for Jason, the single 25-year-old bachelor. What is his problem? Well, think about what he might be going through. Think about what that single person living alone in an apartment, not having any sort of physical contact with anybody, and that wears you down. It really does. And so you have to know that, you have to understand that, because when you start looking at performances and, it might be people are lazy, it might be people work from their bed, it might be all these different types of things, but it could be something that can be rectified if you just understand their situation. Again, go back to that living space. Do they have a comfortable place where they can go and get their work done? Is it small? Do they have roommates? All the rest of the different things. Think about the new hire. Think about somebody that got hired on March 1st. And then now gets thrust into this, and they don't even know the team really. And now they're they might know you on a happy hour, but you're nervous and those type of things. Just understand also that for me personally, and in my conversation with Eric and Mark, I mean, a lot of people are busier now than they were before all this went down. You know, everybody thinks, man, you're a traveler. You know, you never have to worry about anything, right? I'm busier than I am normally when I'm on the road. And another one that I want to throw in there just because it's a real life example. Imagine the two people that just decided to live together, and now they're stuck in quarantine for 90 days. That's something you should consider as well. That's a rough one. But how much you, Mark and Eric, I mean, it sounds like you've got a really good relationship with your team. But are you in consensus with me that these type of things, and I know they sound all touchy-feely, but are very important to understand and take the time to understand what these folks might be going through during all this?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't want to divulge kind of their situations, and we're very respectful of that as well.
Yeah, we definitely want to keep the culture going and make sure everyone realizes that they're an important part of the team, and that we're here to make everyone's lives better, and we're here also to have a good time. So even though everyone's stressing about all the different stuff and how they're living and how we're working with our clients, we want to make sure that, hey, we're here because we like to help people, and that we're here to make our lives better and our clients' lives better and have a good time. So that I try and stress that as much as possible.
And we've also been working on SMART goals, like specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based goals for each one of the positions in our business. And we've been working on this one for a while, even before this happened. But having a goal for each one of our team members and something that they can attain is definitely something that's a part of our response to this as well. And so we're implementing that now, and I think it's going to make a big difference in the long run.
Oh, I think that's a great idea. Absolutely. And that, and I think that leads into this pretty well. I mean, you set those goals. I think, that's just human nature. People like to feel like they're attaining a goal. I think it's motivating and all the rest. And then you look at folks that maybe aren't hitting those goals, right? So how do you manage those underperformers? It's difficult to do, it's difficult to do remotely as opposed to being in the office where you can walk over to somebody's cubicle or somebody's office and say, hey, what can I help you with? Falling behind on X, Y, or Z. But there are ways to manage everyone. When we talk about, being sensitive to what's realistic, it's you set those goals, and if they're not hitting those goals, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a failure. You have to figure out why that is. Maybe it's that living situation. Maybe it's, just adjusting to this. Maybe they had a family member who's been sick. So you got to find out the why. Why are they underperforming? Maybe they're just not good at working remotely. That's a possibility. But trying to find out the why is really important. And you deal with that. We've talked about it a couple of times. The loneliness of it, the invisibility, where I've got an assignment and I might go 2 days without talking to somebody, not like this. That's where the simple thing like you do, Mark, you send out that message early in the morning. The team meetings are important, and to do it where you could actually see other people and see that they're looking at you. Those go a long way. And, I talk about cooler talk, the water cooler talk, where you're just sitting around having a cup of coffee. And, you take that kind of stuff for granted. But yeah, there's those people that you'll talk to as you're grabbing a cup of coffee for 5 minutes and those type of things. And now you obviously can't have that. I've got a text thread with my entire team. Well, we talk about everything but work. What are you watching on Netflix right now? We'll talk about these different types of things. We'll talk about baseball coming back, those type of things. So however you can kind of replicate that, you don't realize how those little small interactions really go a long way to team building. And I think that's really, goes into trying to build this connection and the little small touch points. Again, you don't have to write a documentary here on your text thread, just something, I thought you'd find this GIF funny or whatever it's going to be. Little small interactions go a long way. And again, to re-harp on this, keep things normal. Weekly 101s, those are still going. Those daily touch points, like Mark mentioned, they're still going. Those little happy hours, trivia contests, photo contests. We've got one at Datto as a whole of take a picture of your cat, who's got the cutest cat, who's got the cutest dog. And there's all these little things for a $25 Uber Eats card. I don't participate in those, but apparently hundreds of people around the world love that type of stuff. So everybody's going to like something different. What do you got? I mean, you've already made the one example, but do you try to make sure that people are staying connected outside of work and not necessarily only communicating with coworkers when it's about something that they're working on?
We haven't done a ton of that on the outside of regular work. We've got a pretty close-knit team, so a lot of times we reach out to one another anyway.
Mhm.
So we're doing that just because we're friends.
That's the word.
But
Yeah.
we're probably not as large as some of the other businesses out there. Excuse me. And so I can see why that would be a huge deal.
Well, we did have pizza delivered to every one of our employees and had a happy hour a few weeks ago, which was a lot of fun, especially since we've got employees in different states. So it was interesting finding out all their local pizza places and having pizza delivered to them.
Oh man, in the Northeast, that would have been a battle between Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey. We take a lot of pride in our pizza up here in Connecticut. But yeah, little things like that, it's cool. You know what I mean? And it goes a long way. And it sounds like you guys already have that kind of camaraderie where the water cooler talk is happening on its own. It's not even something that as a manager you really have to worry about. And then after, the management side of things is critical, but you also have to make sure that you're still maintaining that culture of security. We're humans, it's human nature that you let your guard down more when you're not in a work environment. So that needs to be something that's always top of mind. These criminals are attacking us. We did a webinar a couple of weeks ago where we really went through the new style of attacks here where you're exploiting COVID-19 and sending out emails that might look like it comes from your organization or your town saying, hey, somebody got hit with COVID in your family. Here's how you got to, your next steps to try to remediate this. All of those different types of things. So you've got to make sure that culture is staying up to date. And so, with these touch points and with these management tools, ingrained in that has to be, hey guys, we got to keep this still secure. We got to keep that culture like we had in the office. We don't know where we're going to work. Wherever you're working from, you have to make sure that you're protecting that data. And I'm going to go through some of the kind of tips that I have. And then, I'd like you, Mark or Eric to jump in. But first and foremost, make sure that your employees understand that they're being a target. I get the question all the time, what are the chances I get attacked? Easiest question I can get is 100%. You're going to be attacked. It's whether you have systems in place to prevent them from getting through, or more importantly, do you know where you're not supposed to be going, what you shouldn't click on, those type of things. It is becoming more prevalent during these times. We're seeing more attacks, more wire fraud attacks. I just did a webinar with somebody from the New Jersey agency on cybersecurity, and they said we've seen a spike in wire fraud. The emails that come in and say, hey, send me, here's the new account number. It looks like it comes from a vendor. So you got to make sure that you're staying on top of these things. And I think, Mark and Eric would agree, just that basic understanding that you're being attacked and keeping that top of mind, maybe even in the team meetings. Hey guys, did you see this article? This is some scary stuff. That company in my town got hit, whatever it is, needs to be part of that. You guys, you live and breathe this stuff, but I assume when you guys were all working remote, there was a lot of kind of double checking that the systems that they were working on were secure.
Well, first thing you got to do is realize that you're not behind the moat anymore when you're in the office. So all of those security measures that you have that are protecting your local area network aren't necessarily going to be there when you're outside of the office. So a couple of things that we did real quick was make sure that all of our firewall protection and intrusion protection was available to all of our systems outside the network and the DNS protection. And we also said, hey, we've got hardware going outside our network now. We need to encrypt our disks. So if someone loses a laptop or if their house gets broken into and gets a computer stolen, they can't take the data off the hard drive, and it's all encrypted. So those are the two kind of easy things that we could address immediately that gives you a world of protection.
And going down to what is often the weakest link in the chain is continued training for your staff and you. Specifically, the security awareness training we offer and some of the add-ons that are included with it, including a utility called Second Chance, that if you click on a link, it's going to pop up and it's going to say, hey, this link is taking you to this URL. Are you sure you want to go there? And having that phishing knowledge in your face and continued training on that one will help businesses really understand that that risk is high, and just as much or more so now that you're working from home.
Yeah, and it's got, again, I keep saying the culture, but the culture of security is extremely critical. And that comes down to policies and procedures. I'm always shocked to find businesses that I talk to that don't have any written down policies and procedures on your IT side. Very simple. It goes for, obviously onboarding anybody new and, having them sign off on this, but they should be reviewed right now. They should be reviewed regularly, but also reviewed or potentially updated as we work from anywhere right now. I mean, I'm sure that's one of the services that you provide with your team, with your clients, to go through making sure that they're checking off all the boxes.
Yes.
We do that every quarter. We go through what their standards and their policies and make sure that they're up to date.
Yeah. So, as we move through some of the other things, we just talked about training. It needs to be ongoing. It really does. It's not just, all right, I got my training done, because I see it all the time. Somebody will sit through a webinar like this, they'll go through a training, and for 2 weeks, man, they do everything. They check off every box. And then 3 weeks later, it's out of sight, out of mind. So it's got to be something that's ongoing. We get phony phishing attacks to Datto all the time, and you're supposed to, if it looks fishy, you send it off to you email to their team, and they'll say, congrats, you did a great job. You didn't fall for this. Or you do click on, you fall for it. You get a different congratulations. Congratulations. You just signed yourself up for an hour-long cybersecurity training because you fell for it. But it has to be ongoing. And I think, you mentioned the training. 91% of all data loss and downtime comes from user error. And that's not normally malicious error. It is something that happens inadvertently. And when you're working from home, again, your guard tends to drop, and you fall for more of these things. It's just human nature. So that needs to continue. How often do you recommend these trainings occur? And how often do you do it even internally with your team?
Well, we've got it constantly running for our team. And for us, I think we do it on quarterly sessions. And it's usually just one fake phishing email a month or so. But we also have consistent, what we call breakfast and learns, where we're constantly updating and talking about, as a team, our risk factors and our and what's new in the industry as far as challenges, like these no install, or I can't remember what they're calling them, threats that you just go to a web page and next thing you know, there's a problem on your computer. So we've been constantly following those. We email each other when we find new articles. The thought process has been building all along since we started as our culture, but we're in that industry. So trying to share that with our customers and our friends has been more of why we're doing these kind of webinars.
Yeah, and I think, again, it keeps going, ongoing. Again, with training, and this goes without saying, but the password policies need to be reviewed. It's amazing to me. I've been on the road for 4 years, and 4 years ago, most common password 1234. It's still on the same list. Maybe you put an ampersand instead of an A, and these guys will never figure this out, or an exclamation point instead of an I. They'll crack that in milliseconds. So understanding that as well, understanding passwords and all of these different types of things. Something simple as never leaving your device unattended. This happens all the time at home. You leave this device, anything that's got business data on it, business software on it. Kid walks up, now they're on YouTube, they're clicking on different types of things. They're not trying to do anything bad, but who knows what they're clicking on. Never leave it unattended, even if you're just going to the restroom or something like that. And you think, okay, there's going to be some criminal that's going to go do something. And yes, that happens. Yes, when you're at Starbucks, you shouldn't just leave your laptop there while you go up and wait in line for your coffee. But also just small things like you don't know who in your own house is going to do it, not to try to do something bad, but because, hey, there's a laptop and I know when I go here, I can go to YouTube Kids or whatever that's going to be. That needs to be reviewed. Back to the password piece, multi-factor authentication is a must. This will go a long way, even more so than the password policies, in my opinion. It's something that you implement. You'll get frustrated at the beginning. Oh, I got to go through this second step. Well, you're complaining over 2 seconds of more time that could actually save your business. It's pretty crazy. So of these things that we're talking about, password protection, the multi-factor piece, what are you guys most focused on? Or is this something that obviously all of it's kind of wrapped together? Mark?
Well, I mean, the multi-factor identification is super effective. So we make sure that everything that we can possibly put under a multi-factor identification tool is done. But every one of these points are critical, really, in making sure that a network and a business is secure. So there's not a single one of them, but we definitely believe deeply in the multi-factor identification.
We recently changed our company policy that everyone has to use a password manager, and every one of their passwords has to be created by the password manager. And again, we have to use the two-factor authentication if it's available. So no one's allowed to create their own passwords. None of the passwords are allowed to be the same. They all have to be created by the password manager, and the whole team uses the same password manager. So there isn't any excuse of using old style passwords.
Yeah, and these things aren't expensive. You know what I mean? Like these are simple things you could do that could literally save your entire business. And your employee, the people that work on your team, they don't want to be the one that screws everything up. They just need some guidance and some simple things like this. And so that's where the management piece kind of comes into it. And then I'm always a glass half full kind of guy. So, when we look at some of the things that, as we're getting towards the end of this and kind of the light at the end of the tunnel, simple things like how many times you go in and you find out that everyone's got admin access just because whoever implemented that system just, is too lazy. And I'm just going to give everyone admin access. And now they have access to data that they no longer really need. Everyone in your company should only have access to the data that they need. And that can be reviewed as well. Very simple things like that. I'm in the world of backup business continuity. I would say that everything that you have, every piece of business data needs to be backed up somewhere. And again, this is something you need to talk to your team about. Are they saving important files on some personal laptop that's not being backed up because that's what they have right now? Are they not using the shared drive or wherever they're supposed to be storing that data? We see that all the time. And so again, when you're having these one-on-ones, you're having this ongoing education, you have to make sure that that data is stored and secure and you'll have access to it if something were to be compromised. Mobile device policy. People work from everywhere. People work from, when you're on the road, you're on your laptop, wherever it is, but do you have something documented on your mobile device side of things if you're accessing that for business data? What are you guys doing on that end, Eric, in terms of mobile device policy?
Well, because the users now are not in the office and using the file shares that are local to our file server, we've deployed a couple different tools to allow a cloud file system. So any type of work that they're doing needs to be on that cloud file system. And, I'm sure you'll get into this later, but we're using the cloud continuity system with Datto to make sure all that's backed up, because the cloud service providers don't really take that much responsibility with your data. So we want to make sure that our data is going to be there when we need it.
Yeah, I mean, really wherever that data lives, for sure. And then, it goes back to policies and procedures, but do you have an incident response plan in writing? What happens? If there's a fire alarm in your building, you know where to go. If somebody gets that scary red screen, do they know what to do? Especially when you're not in the office, do they know what to do when something's happened? It's not like, oh my God, I could poke my head up and talk to my buddy who's across the cube from me. Now you're at home. Now you got to pick up the phone and call somebody. I could tell you, my last job, I would not want to be on the phone with my boss saying, "Hey, I think I might have just clicked on something I wasn't supposed to click on." No, I'm going to try to figure it out myself, right? Or I might call my friend and say, "Hey, can you help me out with this?" And the more time that is happening, the more this malware is going to spread. And so you need to have a response plan. Who is it? What do I do to isolate this machine? And what do I do? Who do I call? What are those next steps? Again, simple stuff to just have in place as part of your policies and procedures. It should be what happens when things go awry. I think it's really critical to have.
And that's
You know,
an
in
important point is the culture has to not make that person feel like they're going to be punished for that.
Right.
Because if they do, then they'll try to solve the problem themselves or whatever. But if you have the culture that we're all in this together, and if there's any kind of a problem, hey, speak up, that will make a huge difference in that incident response.
Well, in addition to that incident response, we have tools on each one of our workstations and servers that monitor the systems. So by a security operations center. So sometimes a security operations center will see that there's an issue going on before the end user even knows it. So the security operations center will notify us and say, hey, this is going on this device. You better check it out.
Yeah. I mean, I think those are great points, and especially Mark saying that it goes back to the culture. You know, nobody in your office should be scared of that. And again, think about the new hire that we talked about who might be in a different situation. Make sure that they know right away during onboarding, and that's where you have those little touch points to make sure that, you know, they feel comfortable and they feel okay with saying, hey, I might have screwed up. But again, I told you I'm glass half full. We're heading in the right direction, right? You're on this webinar hoping to learn, or you're watching it on Facebook Live, hoping to learn, or you're watching the recording. And, you know, we're headed in the right direction. Well, I think technology-wise, we're definitely moving forward. There's a lot of great advancements on that side, the security side of things. I think as an economy, we're starting to figure out how this is all going to work. And I think we're doing well there. And I think, you know, I would love to know additional management tips from different folks, because again, as we're all new to this. And so, you know, the good news is that I believe just joining something like this to try to learn a little bit more makes this experience that much better. So share your experiences when you have conversations with anybody. Share your experiences with your clients even. When you have these conversations with your clients, hey, you know, this is how's things been going with you? You know, here's what we've been doing. Check out some different tips that we've come up with. That goes a long way into strengthening that bond. You're not talking about business. You're talking about how they run their business, how you could help them, and hey, here's some cool things that we've done. And again, I'm a positive guy. We remember that we're the lucky ones, and remind your team that we're the lucky ones, that we still are able to work. Think about if this had happened 20 years ago. We would think about what that would look like if nobody had these things. So yes, there are some issues with being able to work remote, but think about how lucky we are that we even have that ability to do this and be as productive as we are while we're working in this work from anywhere environment. So if anyone has any questions, you could type them into the chat box. Here's where you can get some more information and get a hold of Mark and Eric. Do you guys have any parting thoughts?
I think we covered most everything. Eric?
Yeah, you know, what came through my mind when you said think about what happened 20 years ago was, you know, everyone would be on a dial-up modem trying to do stuff on PC anywhere. That would have been it was difficult then, and I could imagine how difficult it would be now.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And if anyone's looking to do, you know, figure out ways to find those smart numbers or work with us in one way or another, reach out to us. We can help you make your whole system, your whole ecosystem more effective and productive.
Perfect.
Yeah, thanks for watching this, and we're here to help and answer any questions anytime.
Absolutely. Take care, guys. Thank you very much for including us in this. This was fun.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.